Today's about credit checks. So although it blows my mind, there are people who place tenants still without pulling credit. I have no idea why. It is by far the most valuable in my opinion. So the first thing is open collections. So if somebody has an open collection, I don't know why you would possibly think that if they haven't paid, whatever, maybe it's a utility provider, maybe it's, depending on where you're at, if you're in the US, it could very well be a medical provider of some kind. I don't know why you would think if they have not paid those organizations that they will pay you, because as we have seen in many areas of North America, generally speaking, it's pretty easy to go 2, 3, 4, maybe if you're in Ontario, 18 months without paying your rent, and fuck all happens. Nothing happens. You'll never be, you'll never be sent to collections. In a lot of cases, at least, you won't be sent to collections. In a lot of cases, if you are sent to collections, they're not going to be able to collect anyways in some jurisdictions. So there aren't a lot of teeth for being a shithead when it comes to paying your landlord. So a credit report is going to show you if they're a shithead when it comes to, say, like major auto manufacturers or medical providers, how like the lengths that they will go to collect. And then think about, if this person has not paid those folks, what are the lengths that I'm going to have to go to collect if they end up owing me? So open collections, that's the first thing you're going to look for on a credit report. Next thing, I would probably move towards the fact that it's got a pretty significant timeline there. So you're looking at something like, 6 to 8 years, probably 7 years in a lot of cases. And it's going to show you how they've developed their financial responsibility over that amount of time. So maybe 7 years ago, they had a collection. Maybe now it's closed as of 6 years ago, but it shows up as a resolved collection on their reports. And maybe the last 6 years has been pristine. They've got a, like 840 score, whatever it might be, and things are looking good. It's going to show you that development. So there's a timeline there. That's valuable. Next up, I'd probably move to assessing their debt levels. So it is going to tell you things like they've got $40,000 room left on this credit card, or they've got a $40,000 limit and they've got $400 left of room on this credit card. How much are they using credit? Do they have 13 credit cards? It's going to show up. It's going to show all of their creditors on there. So that is all valuable information. Another obvious one here is their credit score. Now you might want to set a minimum score, and that minimum score might change depending on the particular unit that you've got, what area of town it's in, or maybe the renovation quality or the duration since the last renovation, things like that. So that credit score might change, and you might want to have that. If you do have a minimum credit score set, in a lot of areas of the world, you've got to state that. So you might say 750 plus credit required in your ad. If you do have something like that, you want to stick to that, okay? I will be honest with you. Credit score is of minimal value to me. I rent to 20-somethings. I have approved people with no credit score. Comes up no hit, no credit whatsoever. I know that they're there, that they are them. Like, I know it's not identity theft. They just have no credit history. I have declined people with 800 plus. The score to me is a number. There's value in it, but it is not what I'm looking for. If there was no score on a credit report, I would still do it every single time. You're going to be able to reduce fraud. A lot of the new credit check providers, they have AI software that will actually scan. It requires documents, so they have to upload, say, like an ID, a pay stub, things like that. They might have to upload things like proof of if they've got student loans, things like that. And it will use AI software to scan those documents and tell you whether or not they've been fucked with. So you will be able to know, like, I cannot look at a JPEG, especially if I'm doing it on my phone. My eyes are not good enough, and I don't know all of the security features in all of the jurisdictions and which ones will show up in a scan versus not show up in a scan that are on photo IDs. But there are a number, you'll have a dozen plus on every single jurisdiction. Will have a dozen plus probably on their photo ID. I don't know what they are. AI does. So the software will scan that for you. I trust it more than my old man eyes, essentially, looking at a document. Unless it's physically in my hand and it's printed on a piece of cardboard instead of a piece of plastic, I'm probably not going to be able to tell. You're going to be able to evaluate stability. So have things changed rapidly? Have they had 13 credit cards come and go in the last 2 years? Because that's odd. Or have they had 2 credit cards that remained for the last 13 years? Because that's pretty normal, I would say. And those are 2 different things. Confirming timelines is extremely important. So why did you tell me as an applicant that you've lived at your present address for the last 3 years? When I pull your credit, it actually says that in that time frame, there was 6 months or 7 months where you lived at a different address. So I'm going to question you about that. And I'm going to find out, are you trying to hide something from me? Did you just maybe forget that? Or is this a place where you only stayed 6 months because you got evicted from there? And so you're going to be able to confirm every single duration of everything that they have told you. You're going to be able to confirm that very easily on a credit check. Obviously, we talked about previously bankruptcies. Here's the asterisk to collections. And so I won't make you go to the Twitter account to find this because nobody's fucking on Twitter. Just last turnover season, so this is like 6 or 8 months ago, I had a situation where a young couple, so these are partners, they applied to rent a unit that I had available. Now, one partner, 100% qualified on their own. Like, everything was pristine, more than enough income, like all the boxes checked. If they were by themselves, I would give it to them. The other partner would have probably not been offered the unit, but was close, but also had a small remaining open collection. So I believe the collection started at about $2,500 or $3,000, and there was $600 or $700 remaining on it from 2 or 3 years previous. So it was not paid off yet, still an open collection. I used that as a negotiating tactic. So, hey, like the way that I looked at it, and this again was because one person 100% qualified on their own. So that person was either going to remove the other applicant from the lease and say, well, we're not moving in together anymore, I promise. And they were going to live there. Like, that's just the way it was. Or I would have to offer it to a different group. And there were other groups. But I said to myself, okay, so what level of risk am I taking on here? What do I need to get paid in order to take on and accept that level of risk? Because you should never accept greater risk without a probable greater return. That's my opinion. $85 a month times by a year lease. That's what I got paid for that, or am getting paid for that right now. Reduce touch points. Doing a credit check is going to reduce touch points by telling you what sort of level of drama this person is bringing. Do they have, like, for example, collections? That's drama. There is no circumstances in which if that person that I spoke about previously applied with 2, 3, 4, 5 other applicants of the same sort of quality, that I would rent to them. In fact, as that number gets bigger, you might think that it's more likely because I've got more incomes to garnish, more people to chase, all that sort of stuff. But the greater number of folks that are marginal, the more likely they multiply into something you don't want, as opposed to turn into something you do want. And so you're going to be able to reduce touch points, reduce some drama. If drama's bringing them to you, it will take them away every single time, I promise. Another thing, you're going to be able to set a number of filters, and those filters can be similar to a credit score, binary. So like if you said, I want 750 or above, somebody applies, they've got 743, cool. 5 seconds, you throw it in the garbage, done. It's that simple. You can set those go, no-go parameters, and I highly recommend that you set those. I can tell you sort of what I do for that stuff, but my demographic is quite likely different than yours. My area of the world is different than yours. It is not uncommon whatsoever where I invest and live to have, 35 or 40% of your gross go towards rent. And so we're talking about, in some cases, 50% of net. Now, I do certain things to mitigate that because that's a number that a lot of people, if you're listening to this, probably aren't comfortable with. So anything you can do like that, all of these different binary sort of go, no go type parameters, those are going to reduce risk for you and your partners. So if you're thinking of saving 40 or 50 or even if it was $100 on a credit report, imagine if this tenancy goes wrong, and then imagine explaining that to your life partner or your business partners that, you know what, I figured saving $100 on this, it would be fine because, they seemed nice. I hear that phrase so frequently. Congratulations. That is not screening a tenant. That is the laziest shit you could possibly do. And you're running a business like that. That is going to go wrong at some point. Employment verification. So it's going to tell you whether or not that number, and you've already, gone deep on Google and you've got the phone number back search and all that sort of stuff. So you should know that you phoned a legit reference. However, this is going to be another step where it verifies that. So are they actually, if they told you they're employed by Google, but no, McDonald's is depositing $400 a week onto their account. Those would be different things. A judgment search. In a lot of cases, these credit checks will give you a background search. Even a criminal record search will be an option on these. And I recommend if it's an opt-in option, it'll be an opt-in option for, $10 or $20 extra. Just do it. Now, I mentioned that I don't believe in the 1/3 rent rule, which is, preached by every guru and organization out there. The debt service coverage ratio is way better. They might only have 25% of their income going towards rent, but if they've also got a car payment, maybe they've got alimony they're paying, fill in the blanks. People have toys, $30,000 motorbikes and $30,000 Skidoos and $130,000 trucks and just stuff. That 1/3 income as rent rule goes out the window when they are spending every damn dime that they make in a month. Have they actually stayed at their previous addresses for what looks like a normal tenancy term, or are they vacating early? And if they're vacating early, why? Do they have a bunch of credit cards at 26%, or do they have student loans at 5%, but probably for the rest of their damn life? I see in some cases mid-20s to late 20s folks will apply for my units and they'll say, well, I own my current home, so I don't have a landlord, so there's no landlord reference. Cool. That's going to show up on a credit check. And so if you're full of shit, I will know. All of this is going to combine into the most important aspect of this, and that is the story. All of that information on their credit report is something that you can cross-reference and verify with their application with every single thing they have told you so far, from the first contact, no matter what that platform is, to showing them the unit. What did they tell you verbally? Does it all match? It's completing the story. It's a one-stop shop. I cannot think of a single thing other than the credit report that you can do that will verify as much of what they have told you. And the basics of tenant screening are, when you break it down to the absolute sort of general idea of tenant screening, is you want to get as much information from them as possible and then verify all of it. You want to give them as many opportunities as possible to fudge the truth, to stretch the story, to tell you a lie, and then just verify they have not. That's it. That's all you have to do. That's credit reports. If you're not doing it, I highly recommend you do. If you're on the email list, you'll get an email one day soon about the next session I do on tenant screening. It's 100% free and all that stuff. But that's credit reports. If you're not doing it, you're being way too lazy, and you should.